do is sit in my garden, or actually what I'm doing is walking around my garden and stalking the tomatoes and seeing if they're growing yet. You know, like I just make endless loops and I'm so happy, and the last thing I want to be doing is cooking inside. So these are some recipes that I think are delicious and they honor this seasonal produce that we're starting to finally see in little drips and drabs in the farmer's market, and kind of looking forward to summer. So I hope these are some recipes that you will enjoy throughout the summer when you don't feel like cooking and you'd rather be doing anything else than being in a hot kitchen. Some of these are no cook at all, and some of them are very just gently cooked, but all of these require very little heating up of the house, which is exactly what I'm looking for in the summer. So the first one I'm going to show with you guys is this crispy gnocchi. It's the first recipe on your little sheet. All the recipes are up by the door if you didn't get one. And it is so simple because we're starting with a lot of ingredients that are already ready to go. So first I'm going to heat the skillet up. We want to get it pretty hot, so I'm going to preheat. And while we're doing that, I'm going to tell you about gnocchi. So gnocchi are a little Italian dumpling. Traditionally, they're made with potato and flour and maybe some egg. And you roll them into little snakes, like little logs, cut them, and then you roll them on a gnocchi board, which is just a little ridged wooden board. And that's how you get these little ridges here. And when they fold over on themselves, they kind of close. And so you get the little seal here, and that's how you make a gnocchi. I did not make these gnocchi. So don't have any fear on that count. These I purchased. So they have them in the pasta section in just their pantry staple. You can buy them with all the other pasta. And all of the ingredients here, as always, came from Walmart. So they're easy to find, which is important in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this all the way up to hot, and I'm going to start getting our olive oil hot, because how we're going to cook these is we're going to brown them in the skillet. We want them to get all crispy and brown. Traditionally, you boil them like you would any other kind of pasta. It's really traditional to serve gnocchi with just a really basic tomato sauce and then a ton of like Parmesan or Pecorino Romano cheese. But this time we're going to be frying them up a little bit. And I think you guys are going to love it. So, in our pan, just getting nice and warm, I'm going to throw in our gnocchi. Already got a little sizzle, that's nice. And I'm not going to move them around too much. Oh, see, these are kind of clumped up. We want to make sure we break up all the little clumps. That way we get all the nice surface area to get crispy instead of stuck to itself. Alright, so I'm just going to let that sit for a second, and we're going to let that keep heating up, and we're not going to start flipping it because we want this to develop a really nice brown crispy side. And the way we do that, and it's very difficult for me because I'm a stirrer and a poker, we have to leave it alone. So we're just going to let that sit. And while we do that, I'm going to finish chopping up these tomatoes. So this is really a beautiful way to showcase tomatoes when they're nice and fresh, and when I finally get some coming out of my garden, this is coming onto my table. I can't even wait. But what we're going to do is we're going to chop up tomatoes. I always took these little baby rainbow tomatoes and just cut them in half. What we want to do is have the sizes of things be about the same size as the gnocchi. So I'm going to be cutting up these tomatoes into about the same size as these other little half baby tomatoes, and that way, when we're getting big old spoonfuls of it and stuffing our faces full of tomato goodness, we get all kinds of delicious things in one bite. And there's not one bite that's just tomato, or because that can get a little boring. So we want everything to be about the same size, and that'll be a delicious way to get all the flavors in our mouth at one time. I'm just going to chop these up and put them here while we keep going. Ooh, I can smell that olive oil heating up. Can you guys smell that out there too? It's nice. I did chop half the tomatoes up ahead of time because I do feel like watching me chop has to be the most boring part of this class. I'm really sorry about that. I tried to get ahead. I really did. Alright.
Because your knife is so sharp, I like
Well, I did sharpen it before class because I was like, Renee's going to be here and she's going to watch, and I need to make sure my knife is good. No, I did actually sharpen it just a little bit before class today. I've been using it a lot, so it was getting a little bit not as sharp as I like. Alright, so we're just going to see how this is going. You know, I don't think we're ready to flip anything around. We're just going to let that sit while we keep doing the grunt work, chopping up our tomatoes. So I've got about 5 different kinds of tomato plants going, and my Cherokee purple already has some really nice big fat tomatoes setting. I know, I know. They're very green still, but they're there. And then I have a pear, yellow tomato that's like a little cherry tomato, that's pear-shaped, and he's got 2 on him, and everything else just being lame and not doing anything. So, you know, we'll see. Yeah, these are starting to brown, so I'm just gonna kind of flip them over a little bit. Do you see how we're getting some color on here? That's gonna be delicious, and that's exactly what we want. Let me grab a little thingy deal. Here we go. There we go. So we're just gonna stir them and then let them sit again, so this other side can get nice and crispy. Alright. So this one's really simple. It is just the gnocchi, the tomato, a little red onion, some vinegar and herbs. And it is just delightful in the summertime. This is one that you could actually make ahead and serve room temperature if you're having a little barbecue or get together. And it's such a fun take on a pasta salad. I love sesame salad to the end of the world. It is my favorite little go-to pasta salad from the grocery store. I love it. My family loves it. But this is kind of a surprise, and it's so fresh and nice. So if you're tired of making the sesame salad box, this would be a good little pasta salad. It's also vegetarian and vegan. So if you have anyone in your life who isn't really eating dairy or meat products, and maybe they have alpha-gal and they have a problem with animal products, this would be a great alternative, and no one's going to miss anything in flavor because it is delightful. So this is going to go. We're going to do this for a few more minutes. I think the recipe card says 8 to 10. That's probably about how long it's going to take, just because we want to get a nice color and crisp on all those little dumplings. And then I'm going to change the method up just a little bit because I want to use my bigger bowl for something else. So we're going to be throwing everything in the skillet and then putting it back on the tray to serve. But you could follow the recipe where you pour everything into a bowl and toss it, and that would be fine too. Yum. They're starting to get crispy. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's like a little crisp happening on there. Super nice. Okay, so now I'm going to start prepping my herbs for this guy. We need, I think it's parsley and basil. Yeah. So here is parsley. I'm just going to make sure that, yeah, I've got cilantro in there too, and that's going to be a problem. Hold on, let me just go ahead and make sure I'm not putting cilantro in the parsley. Alright, here we go. Cilantro's for later. Put him back in there, and we'll not put cilantro in our pasta dish. And then I've got basil here. So I'm going to start chopping up some herbs for our garnish on this guy. Nice and fresh. Are you going to go back in? Maybe? Okay, you got it. So I'm just going to pick some of the stems out here. Since we're eating it fresh and they're not going to cook, they won't have any time to soften really. And you don't want a hard, crunchy stem in our beautiful, pillowy, crispy gnocchi pie. That's not what we want. Alright. Put that over here, and then our delightful basil. I have, I think, 3 different kinds of basil in the garden. I bought some from Evans. I didn't even know this existed, but it's called pesto basil. And it's a little variegated. The leaf has a little bit of white in it, and it's kind of pointier looking than this, Genovese basil. And the fragrance on it is amazing, and it's actually doing better in my garden than my traditional basil plant. So I'm excited for that. At Evans Nursery. Oh, these are looking good, you guys. Alright. I think by the time I'm done with these herbs, they're going to be done too. So I'm just picking the basil stems. Anyone have any questions so far? Yeah? If you do, just speak up. I might not be watching for, a hand raised or anything like that, so just yell.
Did you boil that pasta?
No, it just came straight from the package. Yeah, straight from the package. We're not trying to boil water in the summertime. Alright. Which is why I like this recipe, because it's very much, I'm opening a package and doing very little to it, and it's going to be so good. suspicious. Don't want suspicious basil. Okay, cool. So now we have all of our herbs picked, and I'm just gonna give them kind of a coarse chop. I'm not trying to get anything too fine. Kind of rustic. So we're just gonna kind of introduce the leaves to our knife and not make too big of a deal about it. Gather up the rest of it. And maybe run it through this way. Like that. Alright, perfect. Oh my goodness, you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn this heat off. And I'm going to throw these onions down. Just to soften them a little bit. We're not really trying to cook them. I'm going to throw in a little bit of salt. And then our delicious tomatoes. I heard that. And I'm just going to give this a little bit of a stir, but I'm not trying to cook the tomatoes either. I'm just kind of stirring everything around a little bit. And then we're going to put it back onto our plates. She says optimistically, like it's not 4 times too big for them. I know. It's so pretty, you guys. I know. All right, and then I love this. This is making me so happy. All right, and then we're gonna throw in just a little bit of vinegar on top. This is balsamic, just to dress it, just a little acid. It's gonna help bring out the sweetness of those tomatoes. Oh, you smell that heat and the acid? Oh my gosh, so good. And then, no, all over. All right, a little bit of black pepper. Let's go ahead and hit just a little bit more salt for those tomatoes. And then the confetti. And we're just gonna, and I'm just gonna shift it around just a little bit so we get all mixed in. Yeah, your clean hands are the best tool in the kitchen. All right, and then that's done. That was so fast, and it's so delicious, and no one else is eating this for lunch today, I promise. So I'm just gonna walk this over to the table, and it's gonna hang out until we're ready to feast. Just to get it out of my way. I know, the temptation is real, I'm sorry. I think it's going to be perfect for summertime, I really do. And I can't wait to get fresh tomatoes from the farmer's market and all the herbs coming in and making this with fresh ingredients. It's going to be awesome today. But, oh, there's nothing like a tomato fresh in my garden. Looking forward to that. Okay, so next, this is one you can make early in the week and keep in the fridge and eat it for lunches all week, which is one of my favorite ways to eat. So, this is going to be a Middle Eastern recipe, and I promise you, when I was putting this recipe together, in my head, I knew that Walmart had canned lentils. Like, I know I bought them there, or Homeland, I bought them somewhere in town. Anyway, plot twist, no one has canned lentils. So if you wanted to make this with lentils, you could take a cup of lentils and boil them in water till they're tender and drain them and start there. But I was trying to do something that didn't require boiling water. So we're going to use a mix of chickpeas and red kidney beans, which are also very traditional Middle Eastern ingredients. And so it's not going to impact our salad at all. Alright, so this is a carrot and bean salad that we're making next. And, I'm sorry? Red kidney beans. They're ubiquitous in Middle Eastern cooking, and I thought it would be a good sub. Also, I think the textures and the colors are going to be really pretty together too. So I bought these carrots already cut. They're called carrot chips at the grocery store. And they're cute and they're a little crinkle cut, and I did not have to peel a carrot for this, which I feel like is a win. So we are opening a bag, friends. We are opening a bag. Alright, so first what we're going to do, in our little pan, we need garlic. Alright, but first, I want to talk to you about the spices that we're using. I brought these spices from home. I don't know if they sell full seed, all of this at Walmart or not. But I already owned them, and so I thought I would save the library a little money and just bring my stuff from home. So we're using whole seeds. I love using whole seeds when I cook. So first what we're going to do is we're going to toast this. This is cumin seed. Comino, it'll also be labeled sometimes. We're going to toast that. Actually, we're going to go ahead and toast the coriander seed too. So this is, let me get my cardamom pot out. Alright, so this is cumin. You see it a lot in Mexican cooking, but it's also very traditional in Middle Eastern cooking as well. And then this is coriander seed, which is the seed from the cilantro plant. And it's floral and delicious, and a lot of times my sons have the gene where they can't eat cilantro, it tastes like soap. But the coriander seed doesn't bother them at all. So I use coriander in a lot of places where I would love to put cilantro, but I love my children too, so nah, I don't. So you see these a lot in like the, oh sorry, let me try to, why are you not working? Please work. Okay, great. So you see these a lot in like little plastic baggies of spices, and like in the Mexican cooking aisle, you see them a lot in there. And they're a lot cheaper when you buy them in like that, as opposed to buying them in the jar on the spice aisle. So keep an eye. I know that Homeland has a really big selection of these spices kind of over by their produce department. And I'm pretty sure you can find both of those there. You might even be able to find cardamom there too, I'm not sure. But you might. I also brought my little mortar and pestle so you can grind them up. Alright, but let me also tell you about cardamom. So cardamom is a really cool spice, and you see it in cuisines all over the world. It's really popular in like the Nordish countries, I'm trying to think of the right word, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and their pastries. So they put it in a lot of coffee cakes and things like that. You see it in Iranian cuisine, ancient Persian cuisine, it's in a lot of places, but you also find it, interestingly, in Thailand and places like that as well. So it's a really fragrant, beautiful, starting to smoke, that's not what I want. Turn it down. It works, it turned on. But we're not trying to burn our spices, we just want them to be a little bit fragrant. So what this does, heating them up is going to kind of wake up all the aromatic oils and stuff in the seeds, because who knows how long they've been sitting, you know? And so this will sort of wake it up a little bit. Let me go ahead and put that into my mortar and pestle. I don't have to burn myself, because that's not the day I want to have. There we go. Yeah, and it's also going to give it a much brighter, bigger flavor in the thing that we eat. So I almost always, I don't really cook with ground cumin. I use cumin seed, because it takes almost no time, and it is so much better tasting, I think. So these are the little cardamom pods that I am dealing with now. You can buy the cardamom seed, you can buy it already ground. Again, I'm a glutton for punishment, so here I am with pods. But I do think it keeps the spice fresher longer, and I don't want to pay money for spices and then have them taste like nothing 6 months later. So it depends. Whole spices will last longer than ground, but the rule of thumb is about a year. About a year for ground spices. You can get maybe a little bit. My mother has, I think, some parsley in there that's older than me, so yes. That's a real thing. Alright, so we only need a quarter teaspoon, that should be good, of cardamom. So I'm just gonna scoop up my mess and put these away and save them for another project. Okay, so in our mortar and pestle, we have our ground spices, and this is a marble one. These are not expensive, they're pretty cheap. And the sides are very gently ridged. So this is the mortar and this is the pestle. The pestle will kind of grind the herbs against the ridged sides of the mortar, and you'll get a paste or a powder eventually. This one's a little bit full. So what I'm going to do is kind of keep my hand here so I don't accidentally, because if I kept going, you would get things flying everywhere. Ask me how I know. So I'm just going to kind of put a little splash guard up with my hand and grind this up a little bit. It doesn't have to be totally fine. I think this is actually more delicious when the spices are a little bit large. because you get a bite and you can tell exactly what spice you're eating, and it's just delightful. Especially with such humble ingredients, carrots and beans, you know, having something in there that elevates it and makes it exciting. I just think it's worth the trouble. So there we go, didn't take very long, pretty powdery in there. And then I'm gonna add my cardamom. Cardamom and carrot is also a very classic combination in a couple different ethnic cuisines around the world. So this is right at home. Okay. Guys, I wish you could smell this. I would put this behind my ears. I think it's so good. Okay. So in our little pan, we're going to bring him back into action, and we're going to sizzle up some garlic. I know. It's a good one. So that's about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're going to turn him back on allegedly. Yes. Oh, come on, do the thing. Okay, good. And we're going to chop up some garlic real fast. So these are whole cloves of garlic, and I'm just going to take the paper off, our little clovey cloves, give them a smash so we can get this peeled off real easy. And how much garlic does it call for? 3. All right, good. We're going to do 3. We might do 4 because he came off with one of the other cloves, and who doesn't love a little extra garlic? Okay. And we're just going to give this a little bit of a rough chop. She says optimistically. Yeah. All right. And if you were cooking lentils from scratch, which you could if you really wanted to make this a lentil salad, I'm happy with it being a bean and carrot salad. You could throw your carrots in at the last few minutes of the lentils cooking if you wanted the carrots to be softer. That's not what we're going to do. I'm going to show you what I'm doing to kind of soften the carrots up just a little. And I don't really want them to be super soft either. I kind of want this to be really textured. So into the oil. Once we get the oil, the stuff all cooked in the oil and the oil all infused with all those flavors, we're just going to throw the hot oil on top of the carrots and toss them to kind of roast them a little bit rather than trying to steam them. Alright, so let's get this garlic moving along. And then we're going to throw in our ground spices, and it's going to be amazing. We also are going to need the juice of a lemon. I'm going to go ahead and get that ready. Alright, so the garlic is starting to kind of you can kind of smell the fragrance of the garlic. And that means that we're losing that raw garlic kind of sharpness and taste. So this garlic is going to taste beautifully cooked, and that oil is going to be infused. And so now we're going to add our spices. Can you guys smell that? Oh, I'm sorry. Alright, that's good. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to turn him off. And we're going to grab a spoon. And I'm going to go ahead and season these carrots with a little salt because they are just straight out of the bag. They have not been seasoned. We want to make sure we're seasoning every layer of our dish here. A little bit of toss. Alright. I'm going to throw our hot oil onto our carrots. And I'm just going to wilt them down just a little bit. But I'm not leaving any of this goodness behind. We want all of those delicious flavors. Okay. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a turn here. Perfect. And now we're going to go ahead and put in our beans. I'm going to go ahead and just a little salt with them as well. And I used just open cans and drained them. So that's all you're looking at is drained beans. And even put a little paper towel there to catch any extra moisture. And now we're done with that. Alright, so now it's time for the lemon. And that brightness of the lemon is going to be so beautiful against the earthy flavors of the beans and all the beautiful spices that we toasted and put in. And it's really going to bring the whole thing together. Alright, and then one last thing. Squeezy mullet, cool. Just making sure. We're gonna chop off the bottom end, get that guy out of the way, and we're just gonna run our knife through. Again, we're not trying to make this super fine or anything, it's a salad.
If you're not fond of cilantro, is there something else you can add?
Sure, you could add mint would be delicious, or parsley, basil. Are you not fond of cilantro?
I don't know.
Okay, then hold on, let me pull a little bit aside for the non-cilantro people so you can try it. I am sensitive to this with my family has the same thing, so let me just pull a little bit aside. Because I want you to try all the delicious spices and things too. But this would be great as a lunch. You could put it in little containers and have it for a lunch all week, and it just gets better as it sits. Alright, so this little guy is for the people who don't like cilantro. Please be aware of that when we're eating later. Or parsley is good. You know, dill would also probably be delicious, but I love dill, so yeah, dill would be amazing. Alright, and here's salad number 2. Alright, that looks all toasted together. It looks like there's enough oil coating everything, so we're just gonna call that one good. Alright, I'm just gonna throw this on the table and we'll move on. Alright. So next, we're gonna flip our little thing over. I'm gonna take a minute to rinse my board off, get things cleaned up. Okay. Nice clean. Okay. Alright, so next we're going to make one of my favorite things, and this is the shrimp salad with sesame ginger dressing. So we're going to start with a bowl. Let me get this out of the way. Alright, so in our bowl, we're going to add our sesame seeds. And that's 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds. Ish. And we're going to do we're going to do ginger in it. Oop. Wow, that was fancy. Hold on one second. Okay. I know I've showed you how to peel ginger before, but we're going to do it again just in case people need to know. So I'm going to grab my trash bowl over here, and you just use a spoon. And the spoon is sharp enough to take the skin off the ginger without you having to get a knife or a peeler, and it's also a little bit easier to get the spoon and all the ginger nooks and crannies than it is a peeler. And it just takes that skin right off. Yeah. Try to peel it. I know. Yeah, this will save you time and money. Then, I'm just going to kind of clean off the edges a little bit, where it has some dry, where it has been cut already. And then we're just going to chop this guy up. Always mind your fingers. I heard that, Renee. Alright, and then we're just going to make little stacks of ginger. Oh, this guy's got a little bit of edge on him. Okay. And then we're going to cut the planks into matchsticks. This is called julienne. So now we have julienne ginger. Of course, I'm so sorry. Here, let me just, I'll put, you know what? How about we move trash bowl? Okay. And then, after we julienne the thing, we're going to cut it again crosswise, and then we're going to have a fine dice. Actually, fine dice. And that just means a little cube. And fine refers to the size. So now we have just a fine dice. And they're all pretty uniform. Don't come after me, they're all mostly the same. And that's gonna go into our dressing bowl. I'm actually gonna run my knife through just a little, just to break it up just a little more. But you're gonna get a little bite of ginger with this, and it's gonna be a little spicy and a little floral, and the heat is when it goes, it flashes and goes away. So I do kind of want to keep it about that size. Alright, next we are going to put in a shallot. That's this guy, also available at Walmart. But I have one at home. But they do have these at Walmart. And it's just like a little purple onion. If you don't want to invest in a shallot, you can just use a little purple onion or a little green onion. Anything oniony would be delicious here. And get that peel off. But shallots are a little sweeter than red onion, a little bit less astringent, so that's why we're using it here, because with the delicate other flavors of the shrimp and things that are going to go in, we didn't want to overwhelm it with an onion flavor, so chives or green onion in this particular dish would probably be what I would substitute if I didn't want to use a shallot, or couldn't find one for it. And again, we're going to cut this about the same size as the ginger. Nice uniform sizes, make things taste better and look better. Minding our fingers. Oh, it's just practice. It's just practice. You should have seen the first 15 shallots I tried to cut. Just practice. Okay, and then we're using a serrano chili. But I don't really want the seeds. I'm gonna bring my trash bowl back. Don't be offended. I'll get it right out of the way. Here, do that. But using our ginger spoon, we're just gonna scoop the seeds and the pith out of the chili. That's where all the heat is. So we want the chili flavor, but we don't necessarily want to roast our mouths on fire. So I'm just going to scoop out the white part, which is actually hotter than the seeds, and get the seeds out as well. The seeds also would be kind of a weird mouthfeel in this salad. We don't want that. So, come on, everything. Also, don't rub your eyes after you're doing this. If you're super sensitive to chilies, you can always wear gloves when you're handling them. I'm not particularly sensitive, but I'm reminding myself not to rub my eyes because I will do that. And then I will say it. Alright, so again, we're just going to cut these into strips and cut them again into a fine dice. So yes, jalapeno and serrano are generally pretty close to each other. The difference for me is that serranos have a little bit more of a floral flavor. They're a little bit lighter flavored. Jalapenos are such a big green jalapeno flavor that they can overwhelm things. So when I'm looking for a little bit more of a delicate chili, I will tend to use a serrano. Cool. All right, and then lime juice. I know I've got some limes kicking out down here in my little bowl. And this one is fun because it is the next two salads, actually, this one and the next one, are absolutely no cook. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. It's fun to host with things like this because your kitchen doesn't get completely torn up or hot. And it's fun to take to parties and things like that because people think you really did something and you just chop some things, essentially. Which is my favorite way. I like to look impressive without having to be impressive, you know what I mean? So, this is right up my alley. Alright. These limes are really small, so I'm using 3 limes to get 3 tablespoons of juice. If you had a nice big fat juicy lime, you wouldn't have to use as many. Oh, also, I should have told you before I cut all these up, this will be a good example. Do you see how the skin on this lime is pretty smooth? He's had some Botox, he's not all, he's been doing the clean. If you find, this is a good example here. If you find a lime that has lots of like ridges and pits and the skin looks kind of tough and like wrinkly a little bit, they're not gonna have as much juice. The limes that are smoother like this are gonna be a lot juicier than the limes that are more porous, that you can kind of see their pores. All right. Then we're gonna let that sit for a second. And while we let that sit, I'm going to get the rest of our produce together. So I'm going to show you how to supreme citrus, which is a very fancy word for cutting it and keeping the skin off of it. So let me just run my little prep dish. I've already sliced up a cucumber because I feel like that's not something you guys need to watch me do. Let me move this out of the way. Okay. So this is a mandarin orange. It's a satsuma. I love these big mandarins. They are delicious and just so juicy and full of flavor. And to cut them, to make them elegant, to supreme them, we're going to cut the ends off. So we're left with this beautiful little pinwheel. And then we're going to come through and we are going to cut the skin and the pit off all in one cut. So we're going to follow around the outside of it. And our knife is going to follow around the contour of the citrus. And we're just going to get all of that white part and all of the skin off like that. One of my core food memories was when I was, I guess, probably about 14 when Titanic came out. And in the ballroom scene, when Leo's in a borrowed tux going down to dinner, it was in the background, but there was this beautiful silver tureen, like stacked with supreme oranges. And I was like, how did they get an orange to do that? And it took, like, this is before the internet, you couldn't really search, like, how did they do the oranges in Titanic? So it took a long time for me to figure out that all that was just supreme oranges that were stacked in a bowl. And I thought that was the most elegant thing I'd ever seen in my life. And so, these are from Walmart. Yeah, all the groceries today came from Walmart. It's called Supreme. Yes. Supreme. French for supreme. And we're just going to cut all out because you get all of the pit and just the beautiful juicy flesh and all of that comes off. And if you were making a simmer pot or had a stinky disposal or something, you could throw all of this down there and it would be nice. All right, so now I'm just going to kind of go back over and see if I will miss any, and I did. You almost always do, just because you can't see the bottom of whatever it is you're prepping here. Yeah. Alright, just making sure that's all. And then, so this is a supreme mandarin orange. You can do it to any citrus. This is how I also cut my watermelons up. I'll cut the ends off and then cut along the perimeter of the watermelon too. But, here's, oh really? Yeah, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cut in between the membranes of the orange to get the segments out. So then we have this beautiful segment with no pith, no seeds, and it's just delightful, and it costs $0, but how fancy are we? We are so fancy, you guys. So I'm just going to keep cutting along the membranes here, and we're going to get all of these little segments out. And if you were juicing this or needed the juice for a dressing, there's lots of juice left in this flesh that we're not using. So we don't need it for what we're doing today, but you know, whatever gets it into your mouth at the end of the day is really going to work just fine. But I wanted to show you guys this technique because I've always been a little bit impressed by it, and I thought you guys would like to see.
But you realize you're cutting your hands, right?
I do. Well, also yes. Just be careful. But also, my grandmother never owned a cutting board. I think I learned to cook cutting into my hand. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I don't know how to cut a peach really without holding it. So, which I will show you in a minute, actually, because we have a nectarine coming up. Yeah, last one. Here we go. Alright, so now I'm going to take these because I want to make sure everyone gets a nice little bite of supreme. mandarin. I'm just gonna cut them in half. Plus that's also gonna be about the same size as the shrimp that we're gonna be putting in. So, anyway, so there's that. Okay, and then avocado is next. I think the recipe only calls for 1 avocado, but I was kind of embarrassed last time when everyone was here and there wasn't enough food, so I was like, we're gonna do 2 avocados and it's gonna be fine. So anyway, we have 2 avocados, but in the recipe I believe it just calls for 1. And you never know if avocados, maybe this will be a good avocado. We'll find out. Hey, not bad, not bad. Alright, do you need my garbage bowl back? Pop it here. And I'm just gonna pop this seed out into my garbage bowl and put the seeds out there. So then, I'm gonna run around the edge of this avocado. I almost called it guacamole, but that's not true. And then this one, just to get them out of their little shells. A little bit of the brown from the skin kind of close by. I want that off. It doesn't taste bad. I just want this to be pretty. And so then I'm just gonna come through and slice little thin slices of avocado, and we will put that in our little bowl of toppings for our salad. And you too. And put that on, here on top of the mandarin. One more. Sorry guys to make you watch me chop, but I thought if I did these too far ahead of time before class, it would turn around. I didn't want to do that to you guys. Hey, this one's even better. Look at that. Way to go. And then another way you can do this, to show you this technique too, is you can go ahead and slice it inside the shell, and then use this spoon to get it out that way too. Whichever way you prefer. And then it's already sliced. More than one way to skin a rabbit, you know? Or cat. What is it? Cat or rabbit? Something's getting skinned. It's the avocado. Who knows? Alright. So there's that. Now, back to our dressing. Avocado. Okay. Alright, so we've been letting this sit in the lime juice, and that's done a couple things. It's going to take a lot of the sharpness out and the raw taste out of the shallot, so it's going to calm that down a little bit. It's also going to take some of the flavors out of the chili and the ginger and kind of make things a little more cohesive. So it's got a nice little time to sit. We are going to add olive oil to this. Tablespoons or so. And let me rinse this off, because I'd like to use this again, but I have cilantro and I don't want to do that to you guys. Okay, here we go. And then we are going to throw in our shrimp. And this is shrimp that I bought pre-cooked in the freezer section. It's already cooked in a bag. I thawed it, and that was the extent of my involvement with this shrimp. So we bought it already cooked. Easy peasy, and we're just going to kind of put that around. We want all of those little nooks and crannies in the shrimp to get full of beautiful flavor. We are going to salt it a little bit. And I'm going to throw in our cucumber as well. And then we're going to plate this guy up. Come on, thanks. Alright, I just want to make sure this gets all coated up. Yes, it was ready to go. It was deveined, tailed off, pre-cooked in the freezer section. My kind of shrimp. Alright, so now we're going to, let me move my cutting board real quick. Let's get this all beautiful. Actually, do we need to green onion on this one? I don't remember. No. Okay, cool. Alright, so we have our arugula. That's going to be the base for this. Well, maybe. Alright, here, sword. So we're just going to make a nice big nest. juices and cucumber on top. And arugula is really good here because it's sturdy. It's not going to turn to mush the second it hits any acid, which is what happens with like iceberg. It goes really fast. So arugula is a really good choice for this particular salad because of all that happening in it. Okay. Then, lost a little tricky. We are going, I think I missed putting the sesame oil in the dressing itself. I'm just going to drizzle some on top. Toasted sesame oil is really delicious and fragrant. It's super nice. Alright, and then we're going to put on our avocado. We're just going to kind of break it up and put it around here. And our supreme mandarins. It's kind of all over. All those colors, right? And then, my favorite part is the toppings. So we have some edamame, which is soybeans. And usually I can find them shelled. Walmart only has a shell on. And because I love you guys, I sat here and shelled edamame pods for you guys. But they are delicious. They are super high in protein and fiber. They're one of the best little superfoods ever, and they're going to really pump up the salad. Just add another little layer of color and flavor. And then, one last little drizzle, I think, of olive oil just to dress all the stuff you just put on top. Remember, we didn't dress the greens at all, so this is all just kind of together. And then I'm going to do a little bit of black pepper. Chop it up, and then my favorite is the crispy bits. And so I bought these wonton Crispies already done. They're in the produce section at Walmart. And then we have our little Crispies on top. So there is our little shrimp salad. I'm going to put them over here too. Yeah. Alright, last but not least, this one's really fast. This one goes together really, really fast. So, let me grab my measuring cup. Oh, let me give this away. This is sketching me out. Okay, so we need white wine or rice vinegar. I forgot to grab that out, but I know we have some. Just grab that real fast. Oh. And some Dijon. And let me grab this out too. I already did some of the prep ahead of time because I didn't know how long I was going to run. Okay. All we have to do for this one is make the dressing, and pretty much everything else is done and easy. So let me just get myself rubbed it together again. Alright. So I love a nectarine, and I also love a fruit in a salad. And so this is kind of fun because it does all of those things. First we're going to make the dressing, and then we'll just put everything together. So in our measuring cup, we're going to be using 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar. 1, 2. We are going to use a teaspoon of Dijon. Oh, there. We are going to do a teaspoon of honey. You are welcome to measure. I do this all day long every day, and I kind of know what it looks like, but you feel free to measure if you're more comfortable measuring. Honey there. And then salt and pepper. And then olive oil. So when we're making the dressing, rule of thumb is 1 part vinegar to 2 parts oil. And so that's what we're going to be doing here. So the reason I like to do it in a measuring cup is we can kind of see, okay, we're at a 1/3 cup there. So we're going to go ahead and bring this up to 1 cup. And then that will be our good ratio. There we go. So that's really the only part that I care about measuring, is making sure we've got our proportions on vinegar and oil correct. Yeah, it's not mustard in there too yet. So I'm just going to whisk this up until it kind of comes together. do here is finish slicing up our nectarines. So again, I don't know how to do this without just cutting into my hand. That's how my grandmother always did. And I just put down so many bushels of peaches every summer with her that I don't really know how to do it any other way. Just be careful. As long as you're careful and your knife is sharp, it's gonna be fine. I heard you. Alright. And then once it gets to a certain point, you can kind of get the pit out without bruising the fruit. If you try to get the pit out immediately, sometimes it'll bruise the fruit and that's not delicious. Alright, so just a few cuts here. And then we're going to cut these in half so everyone gets a nice little bite of nectarine. You could use peaches or any other stone fruit really, as long as they're sweet and ripe. Alright, and then let's go ahead and get our salad together. So we're going to take our dish here. And I've got my favorite lettuce. I left it in the package this time because there was questions last time and I didn't think about you guys wanting to see the package. So this is my favorite lettuce, also available at Walmart.
What is it?
Oh, sorry. It is crunchy green leaf. Crunchy green leaf sunny crunch. Yeah. I will keep this package over to the side if you guys want to see it up close later. But I love it. It's little baby lettuce. It's crunchy and sweet, and the texture is crispy and perfect, and I just love it so much. And it's my favorite of the Walmart lettuces. So, there's that. Okay. Next, you're never gonna believe it, guys, but we're gonna put some dressing on the lettuce, and we're just gonna pour just a little bit down just to dress it. We're going to save about half because I want to put half on top after we get everything else on there. Okay. Then we're going to take our green onion. I think we only need about 2. These are kind of small, so I'm going to do 3. 3 green onion and some mint. Let's see. Well, we can go ahead and put this stuff down. So let's go ahead and put our nectarines and our cucumber cubes. On the lettuce. And then let's do our chicken next. Let's do that. And then we'll put the herbs on top of the chicken. This is just rotisserie chicken that I purchased already cooked and shredded. I did nothing except open a package for this. It's available over in the chicken section at Walmart. They have a couple different flavors. This was the rotisserie flavor. Some of these bites are a little big, so I'm just going to use my clean hands and just break them up a little bit. Yeah, so easy. If you wanted to cook your own chicken, just 2 chicken breasts, you could just kind of roast them in the oven with a little salt and pepper and call it a day. Then let's do our green stuff. So I'm going to come in with our green onion. And then put that kind of on top. And then some mint. And then I've got a treat for all my feta lovers. And I know you're out there. So this is a real classy little salad, and it takes very little effort. So this would be one that I would take to a luncheon or a game night or anything like that, because it is really kind of impressive with absolutely no reason to be because it was so easy. Alright, and then I'm just going to take my knife and run it through my mince. But it's going to be so lovely with the nectarines for the best. And we're just going to kind of scatter that over the top. We're just building beautiful layers. Next, we're going to come in with an entire brick of feta cheese that I've hand torn. So it's better, in my opinion, it's better to buy the brick of feta and crumble it yourself than to buy the one already crumbled. Number one, it's cheaper per ounce. And then also you can do fat, beautiful crumbles like this that make it feel so luxurious instead of the weak, tiny little crumbly things that you get when they do it for you. We want to feel luxurious with our crumbles, guys. And then next, because every salad needs this crispy, crunchy bit, I've got some pumpkin seeds. These are just roasted, toasted pumpkin seeds straight from the package. They're salty, so it's going to act a little bit like a crouton. we save half of our dressing. And give it a good little whisk. And we're gonna put it over the top. And that way everything that we've done here is going to be beautifully dressed. We don't have to toss the salad to make sure everything is dressed. We have dressed it in stages. And so we don't have to disrupt our beautiful composed salad to make sure everything is